one of the best dressed storytellers ever. So
It's kind of a sequel to the last story I told here. Back in the summer of 2009, I had moved out to the mecca of all that's cool and hip and now a once magical place called Austin, Texas. I went out there to work an unpaid internship with a world-famous film festival because that's what people with film degrees from Temple University do. They move cross-country to work for free when they're 27, but that internship never led to a job because they never do. And a woman who I rented a room from got engaged and her fiance moved in and I had to move out with very little notice. And before I knew it, I was living out of the back of my car in the parking lot of a 24-hour Gold's Gym while working a minimum wage mailroom job. So after about 2 months of that, I realized it was time to come back to Philadelphia and get my shit back together before I make another poor life decision. So I left Austin in February of 2010, which was when the snowpocalypse had shut down the East Coast, and I was going to drive right in the middle of it. So for the first few days, I was trying to beat the storm and outrace the heavier snowfalls, and every hour my mother was calling me, begging me just to stop the car, pull over, and get a hotel room and hunker down until the storm passed. But I only had $200, which I was afraid wasn't even going to cover the gas. So it wasn't until I got to West Virginia when things started to turn grim. And here's a little aside for you that they turned the mic off. Fuck West Virginia. I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. If you're from West Virginia, fuck your shitty fucking state. I had pulled over to get lunch at a Waffle House, and I was the only one there, but when I got back, someone had gone through my bag and stole my phone and a book that I was reading. It was a biography of Fatty Arbuckle. And I didn't know what I was more pissed off about now that I had no way to contact anyone in case of an emergency, or that someone stole a really good book that I was 15 fucking pages from finishing. And I still wonder just how much meth does a used copy of I, Fatty by a West Virginia hillbilly. So things went from grim to bad to am I going to die tonight when I got to Maryland, which is when I hit the eye of the storm. I was driving in whiteout conditions, just passing all of these accidents. All these tractor trailers, one after another, had gone off the roads and they were lying on their sides in the median like the frozen carcasses of some great prehistoric beasts. It was ominous and foreboding. And in film, this is what we call foreshadowing. This would be the part where you're yelling at the character, "You idiot, just stop the car." But I refused to stop until I was forced to stop. I had finally come to another accident about 15 cars ahead of me. Once again, a truck had gone off the road. This time only its carriage was in the median, but its load, the trailer, was spread across the 3 lanes of the highway. There was no way around it. I was 30 miles from any exit in either direction, and the snow was just getting heavier and heavier. I was stuck, which rhymes with luck, which is something I've never had. So I'm in the car. I know I'm going to be stuck there, not just for a few hours, but definitely overnight, possibly longer. I have no water. I have no food. I just came from Texas where there are no winters, so I have no winter clothing. And I look at the dashboard and I realize I have less than a quarter tank of gas. I can't even keep the engine running to keep the heat on. I wasn't just stuck, I was fucked. So I'm rummaging through my luggage and I make a makeshift quilt out of shirts and pants, and somehow I fall asleep, and it's the deepest sleep I've ever slept. And when I woke up, I thought, it must be morning. The sun's going to come out, the snow's going to melt, and I'm going to be okay. And I look at my watch, I slept for 12 minutes. So it is cold. It's the cold that hurts. It's the kind of cold that kills. So I'm starting to have a major panic attack until I remember my roommate in Austin. She was a stoner pothead hippie, and when I left, she gave me a little box and bestowed upon me the type of bullshit sage wisdom that stoner pothead hippies like to bestow. She said, "Greg, take this box because on your journey you're going to need it and you'll know when." Well, inside that box was 6 or 7 hand-rolled joints, and so I thought, she was right, this is the time and I need it. So I take a joint, light it up, trying to stop my coming panic attack, and the moment the smoke hits my lungs, I realize I've made the worst fucking decision of my life. It was super heady sativa, and I was about to have the most paranoid, self-effacing high of my life. I'm questioning every decision I've ever made and how it's led to me being stuck in this goddamn car where I'm going to freeze to death, broke and alone. And then I had that other type of paranoia that if any of you have ever been stupid high and felt, I wondered if I might have shit myself. Now, I've smoked a lot and I've never shit myself, but I'm convinced I have to get out of this car, and I'm struggling to get the door open now that the snow's up to the handle, and I get out and I trudge out into the white void of the white night. and I'm screaming at the sky, howling at the moon, and speaking in tongues until I settle down into a quiet whimper when I hear someone calling out to me. There's this hillbilly in a tuxedo with a cigarette calling out, asking me if I'm alright, and I turn to him, and I'm honest, and I say no, and I give him the Cliff Notes version of my story. So he tells me that I should come back and warm up in his bus, and I get in there, and it's a wedding party of shit-faced hillbillies that got caught in the storm on the way from the reception to their hotel, and they're passing me cans of skunk-ass hillbilly beer and moonshine, and I pass out. I wake up the next morning, the sunlight's pulling in through the windows, I'm laying next to this bridesmaid who I think may have given me a hand job the night before, and she says, Greg, the bus is moving, you need to get back to your car. I stood up, jackhammer in my skull, I got out, I made it to my car, I somehow made it to the next exit, refueled, and made it to Philly, although not without getting stuck in Harrisburg for 2 days with food poisoning, but that's another story for another night. Thank you.